I'd like to announce that we will be recording the meeting for streaming on the website, just so everyone's aware. We could have roll call, please.
Mr. Arndt?
Here.
Mr. Dana?
Present.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Here.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Present. Are we in compliance?
Yes, we are.
Will you please stand for the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any correspondence?
I have one correspondence that I wanted to share. This says, Dear School Board, Seeds Orthopedics offered student-athlete sport physicals at the cost of $10 each. And I would like to donate $9 for each sport physical we perform back to Geneva Athletic Boosters. It's my pleasure to donate this money back. This went from January 2019 through December 2019. They performed 22 athlete sport physicals from our school, and a check in the amount of $198 was mailed to Athletic Boosters. So again, thank you to Dr. Seeds for continuing and showing his support and giving money back from the sport physicals that he completes.
Very nice. Agenda modification?
Thank you. We'll have a thank you sent to Dr. Seeds. So thank you.
Agenda modifications?
We do have a few agenda modifications for this evening. There's an addition to 4A, in addition to 4C, number 1. We removed 4C, number 2, and there is an addition to 4C, number 2.
Okay, at this time we have the hearing of the public, and we've decided on a trial basis tonight we're also going to add a second hearing of the public after other before we adjourn, but the board does reserve the right to limit the time and the number of people if we get too lengthy of a meeting. So, and if you'd like to say something, if you stand, we'll bring you a microphone, state your name and address for the record, please.
Andy Tetlow, 2033 Pelton Road, Austinburg. I just would like to ask if the board could stick around at the end of the meeting for a minute so we could get a quick picture with Stinger, because it may be the last chance you guys get to be really this close to him. Just saying. So that, and then thank you for the second public speaking part. I appreciate that, and also the recording. We appreciate it. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's right. Is there anyone else? Okay. Can I have approval of the minutes?
Do you, don't you need to mention the
Yes,
calendar?
I do. I'm sorry. I have an item here under the hearing of the public. I do want to mention that I provided a draft A and a draft B calendar to you. This is for the 2020 school district calendar. I met with all the county superintendents and looked at how the calendars are similar and different. The two calendars I have presented are quite similar. Both have an August 31st start date for students, and there are 2 to 3 other schools that plan to have an August 31st start date in the county. The main differences between the draft A and B is the winter break, end of the first semester, and the end of the school year. In addition, both calendars have green boxes that are included, and those are proposed early release days for students. These PD days correspond with the work that needs to be completed as part of our strategic plan under curriculum and instruction. All the county schools have the same spring break scheduled, and I would like to share the draft calendars with our employees after tonight's meeting so that I can get their feedback on them.
I have a question.
Yes.
Those release early, the students release early days, what time is early?
We haven't defined the time yet, but there'll be like a half day here in school, and then they'll be released, and the buses will run early.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Approval of the minutes?
So moved.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes. Approval of the financial report?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
And Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Approval of the invoices?
Move.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes.
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
And Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Okay, informational items?
You see some donations listed there. Another donation from the City of Church of Geneva to Geneva High School to be used for PBIS. And an $800 donation from the Ohio Association of Public School Employees, Local 307, to be used by the school nurses at all buildings to purchase extra clothing items for students. And something happens, they want to have things on hand and other supplies. So that was very nice of OPSI. I also want to inform the board that we received our January distribution at the January 30th, representing the fourth quarter of our school district income tax. So this collection came in at $632,925.60. So that puts it $56,744 above our adjusted estimate. And it represents 19% of the annual total amount that was voted, which puts it above or just outside the highest range. You remember how we explained how it was kind of going back and forth a little bit. They had told us to be very conservative with our estimates, so we had used the lowest range. We've been in the highest range except for the third distribution, which was in the middle range. So we had kind of stayed at the top of that middle range. Well, this one was above. I think that ended at like 18.9, that range, and we were at 19%. So it's promising. So it's higher than the top range. So we've had a full calendar year's worth, but this is the third distribution in this fiscal year.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Legislative report?
Yes, thank you. So once again this month we have discussion about the Ed Choice program, though I won't be talking as much as I did last month on it. The February 1st deadline for the application for the program was pushed back to April 1st in order to give time to the legislature to reach an agreement with regards to addressing the increase in the public schools designated Ed Choice eligible. So if you remember, the list went from 255 buildings in 31 districts to 1,227 buildings in 426 school districts in the state. Senate Bill 120, which gives lawmakers 68 more days to figure this program out, was signed by our governor on January 31st. So the reason for this pushback is actually in January, the House Speaker and the Senate President were actually engaged in negotiations to fix some of the issues with the program, and the talks, which included a number of different proposals by both parties, stalled out just before the February 1st deadline. So the date was changed to allow for more time to discuss those solutions. But right after that Senate bill was passed giving them more time, a lawsuit was filed against the state by a group of parents of Ohio students, private schools, and school choice organizations. The lawsuit alleges that Senate Bill 120 that gave them the extra 60 days is actually, it did not legally qualify under the Ohio Constitution to take effect immediately. And basically what they're saying is there was no emergency clause verbiage in the bill, so it already has to wait 90 days to go into effect. So that was the argument that they were making with filing that suit. Though I did try to find some additional information on that suit today. I didn't find any, so that April 1st deadline for getting this Ed Choice program rolling is still in effect. So right after the lawsuit was passed, the House actually did pass Senate Bill 89 with some changes to the Ed Choice program. It dissolved the 3 academic distress commissions. It phases out the district-paid Ed Choice vouchers. It requires the state to pay if a student is eligible for a voucher based on their income and location. And it phases out the building performance-based voucher program over time with some exceptions, those exceptions being siblings of students that are currently getting the vouchers. Some of the other changes that the House made to that bill are allowing the school-age siblings of students currently receiving the vouchers to receive district-paid vouchers, regardless of whether that sibling was in a public, a private school, or homeschooled. They are wanting to rename the state-paid income-based expansion program, so that would be any money that they would be getting based on their income levels from the state, as the Buckeye Opportunity Scholarship Program, as opposed to Ed Choice. They want to increase the income eligibility threshold from 200 to 250% of the federal poverty level, with the priority given to the previous recipients and their siblings, and then they move on to the lowest income students. They want to provide that students currently receiving the performance-based voucher would continue to receive that voucher through their senior year, regardless of the school's district that they're located in and how they're performing. They are calling to maintain the current appropriation amount of $121 million for income-based vouchers for the fiscal year 2021, and the number of vouchers to be awarded would be limited to this appropriation amount. And they'd like to set a 60-day application window, February 1st to April 1st, for the vouchers instead of a rolling period throughout a year. And finally, one of the other things that they're calling for is a joint House and Senate committee on testing, test score ranges, and report card measures, and requiring a report by October 1st of this year. So those are some of the changes that the House made to the bill when they passed it, but expectedly, that bill went to the Senate and it was rejected. So the Senate rejected 89, citing the lack of hearings and public input gathered on the lower chamber's plan. So then in turn, the House announced that they would have 9 committee hearings focused exclusively on the voucher program to take place over 10 days starting on February 11th. So we're kind of in the middle of that. I expect there'll be more information about that toward the end of the month. But those conferences, it's being held in the conference committee for House Bill number 9. So not even within the same bill. And that House Bill number 9 was introduced in May of 2019. And when it started, it was regarding student degree completion and general education requirements. So Ed Choice has kind of filtered its way into a number of different bills to be discussed in a number of different ways by a number of different people, and hopefully 60 days is going to be long enough to get this wrapped up. Unfortunately, the voucher parents and voucher supporters outnumber the public school supporters in testimony for the Ed Choice program, and the private school leaders are urging their parents and all interested parties to go out in masses. So that's why there's a strong call to action going out across the state, as I actually mentioned last month in the legislative report, that they want the public school advocates to have their voices heard and about how Ed Choice is negatively affecting their districts. Contact your representative, write a letter. There's plenty of people showing up in person and giving testimony in the state capitol. That's the call to action for the public school supporters. So that's Ed Choice. There's actually other legislation going on in the states. The Senate passed the Senate Bill 134, which increases the penalties for the offense of improperly passing a stopped school bus. It allows images captured by school bus cameras to be used as corroborating evidence for such an offense, and it appropriates $500,000 for the fiscal years 20 and 21 for purchasing and installing cameras on the buses. This now goes on to the House. The Senate Education Committee held their first hearing on Senate Bill 218, which was introduced in October by a Cleveland area senator, which prohibits public schools from beginning the school day earlier than 8:30. So we'll see if that gets any traction at all. House Bill 478 was introduced on January 23rd, making changes regarding the eligibility criteria for the Educational Choice Scholarship Program, another Ed Choice bill arising. Much of that has to do with changing the language so that students getting these vouchers need to be enrolled in their resident district for at least a year prior to applying for and receiving a voucher. House Bill 493 was introduced on February 4th to permit a child whose parents live in different school districts to continue to attend school in the school district in which the child attended school at the beginning of the school year, even if the child moves to a different school district. So that's how it was written. That's pretty lengthy there, but basically just allowing kids to stay where they started the school year. And finally, in the House, House Bill 504, introduced February 12th, to prescribe a per-pupil funding guarantee for certain school districts and to make an appropriation for such. These are basically making amendments to House Bill 166, which is the biennial budget, and they're talking about those school districts being school districts that are eligible based on income calculations. And in the Senate, they introduced 262 to require direct payment of state funding to community schools in science, technology, engineering, and math schools, and to require the direct payment of K-12 state scholarships and to make an appropriation. Something else kind of dealing with the money coming from the state going to some other types of schools besides public. So as you can tell, and as I alluded to, I'm finding a lot of Ed Choice program discussions and changes centering around many different bills. Senate Bill 89, which coincidentally started out as a bill about career tech education. It wasn't even about the Ed Choice program, but that's kind of what it's morphed into. And then a lot centering around the biennial budget, House Bill 166. And that's what I've got for this month.
Any comments?
I would note that actually the last hearing for Ed Choice in the conference committee is tomorrow. So if you haven't sent in your request to testify by tonight, it's going to be too late because you need to get that in the day before. But it's still plenty of time to contact legislators, and again, we recommend contacting those other than our own who's on board, John Patterson and our state senator, and reaching out to those that are in authority and leadership positions in both the House and Senate. The House Bill 89 is the one to back, and the House Bill 9 cuts back on some of the things that they were moving forward with. So that's the one to oppose.
ATEC report?
Yes, the ATEC board meeting was held on Monday, and on February 29th, the 2020 Skills USA Ohio competition will be held at ATEC, and this will be for the Northeast Ohio region, which goes down south of Youngstown and east over into Cleveland. It would be about 400 students coming in to Jefferson to demonstrate their skills in their various fields. Now, the fields include job interviews, welding, technical drafting, collision repair, extemporaneous speaking, and there are 30 different disciplines all told that are going to be tested. It starts at 6:30 in the morning with setup. The students give demonstrations of their skills to trained professionals in those fields, and then by 11:30 it's pretty well wrapped up, and at 1 o'clock awards would be given out for the winning performances. Now, the top 3 students in each discipline will then go to Columbus to compete in the statewide competition, and the winners from that end up going down to Kentucky for national. And evidently the Columbus is a really big draw, especially for employers who are looking for new people, and they have a chance to see the top kids in the state as potential employers or employees for their various businesses. And it's kind of a neat thing to be having over there at Jefferson, and it should be, I intend to go just to look and check it out. House Bill 89, which we've heard about, is also a problem for the ATEC. The bill started and it passed the Senate with not one word about ed choice. It was just strictly talking about various issues dealing with vo-ed schools. And then it hit some kind of a black hole and came out the other side with all of this ed choice stuff attached to it. Now, this has two problems. First of all, the problem with the bill itself, with the ed choice, just the makeup of the bill itself. And the second thing is it holds up anything that this was going to do to help the vo-ed schools, because now they're embroiled in this thing and they have to wait until everything gets settled before any of their issues hits any kind of legislature. And it always seems to me that's a little bit fishy when somebody has a bill that they don't think is going to pass on its own, and so they tack it onto a bill they think is going to be an easy show, and they can kind of slide it through without having to defend it or face questions about it. According to one of the reports on Monday, the Columbus is being inundated with private school representatives talking to anybody that'll listen to them about getting this passed. So of course they can get their numbers and their tuition up. And one thing was mentioned that even with a voucher, a lot of these schools, the parents are still going to have to contribute money. It's not like this is a free ride, because a lot of these schools are going to cost more than that voucher is going to give them. And maybe this is something that the parents or the promoters of this should make people aware of and talk a little more loudly about, because there could be some really bad information being considered. And the way I personally look at it is, if I had a car and it wasn't working properly, I could either take my money and hire an Uber every time I wanted to go someplace, or I could take that money and fix the car. And then I'd have transportation that would go on long beyond. And it just seems like they're taking money from a school district that's in trouble, probably because they don't have enough money. And what is going to happen to these schools if these voucher monies disappear and they already have a problem with the lack of funding? And it just doesn't make sense. It's so counterintuitive to take money away from somebody that needs money and then expect things to be better. And it just seems like we should take this money that's being earmarked and turn it back to the schools that need the help. And let's get them working and functioning properly instead of taking an Uber all the time. So
Ms. Fisher,
anyway,
can I ask you a question here with respect to that? Because we recently went through the debacle with ECOT that, cost us over the course of several years, $1 million in our district alone. I think it was $2 million at Lakeside, $1 million at Conneaut. And to my estimation here is that are these ed choice schools, are these ECOT schools, are they in a position to offer this technical training that we have at ATEC? And that's what my concern here, about that is, you look at what it is that a public education provides. You look at the opportunities that exist here in a broad areas of vocation, such as, music, such as theater, such as technical training. And maybe you can address this here, but it's like, isn't this a repeat of what we had here with the whole ECOT, situation, where millions were diverted from the public schools? And it just, I just like with you to address that here, I think from that ATEC situation here, because it just seems like that's just totally being forgotten with this ed choice here, is about, we're doing this under this umbrella of its school choice, but yet we're giving our students less in the way of opportunities and career paths that they can take. So I don't know if that was something that was discussed at ATEC, but I just shake my head.
To me, this is the same tune in different words, because basically what you're doing is you're taking students out of a public system, and therefore they're being educated out of the transparency that a public school board and public schools present. I know when I went down to Columbus, first year I was elected, then I went to a charter school thing, and part of the charter schools, they do not have school boards. They have boards like a business board of directors. Some of the schools had, every director on the board had the same last name because they were all family members. And then there was no state overview other than a head count for their money. They didn't check what they were educating, how often they were educating them, and it turned out to be a total debacle. They found one school that was taking all of the funding, funneling it to some group in Pennsylvania who was sending it over to Turkey to help support the Turkish regime over there. And there was no state oversight that would prevent this from happening. And to me, this is just another similar situation, because who knows how many new private schools are going to spring up to take advantage of this kind of a voucher system. And there again, you're going to have no board of education, nobody elects anybody to oversight a position on any of this, and they can pretty much get away with whatever they want to get away with. And I think that, personally, I think no school should exist in the state of Iowa without a public board of education running it. And if you want to have a private school, you should get a board that has to respond to the public for what happens in that school. So.
Thank you.
A lot of problems.
Okay, report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Ms. Ortiz. We do have representatives from the academic boosters, athletic boosters, and GAMBA to provide an update on the group's activities. Again, all of these groups provide many supports for our students throughout the year and even during the summer months. So again, we thank them for all of their support. We'll begin with the academic boosters, and I believe Mrs. Tetlow is here.
What a beautiful trophy.
Oh, is that for us?
Maybe.
I just wanted to touch it.
Hi again, I'm April Tetlow, president of Academic Boosters, and we're a group of volunteers that look to promote, recognize, and support academics in our school system. And we're always looking for more people, more ideas, and just a quick overview of our highlights of the year. We've purchased the Kessler Science Lesson Bundle for the GMS Science Department to use, and it's a complete lesson bundle with a package of science lesson plans geared specifically for middle school students. And we've gotten great thank you notes from middle school students. They seem to be really enjoying it and getting a lot out of it. We organized the GHS academic lamps and pins ceremony, and we provide students who have a 3.0 GPA or higher. Their academic, are you laughing at me, dear? 3.0, oh, okay. We provide them a lamp, and then subsequent years, we give them a pin. For the staff and teachers, we like to show them how much we appreciate them, and this year, over the years, there's always been luncheons. This year, we did a taco bar, and I think everyone enjoyed it, and we had lots of help with volunteers with that as well. We've been attending the GMS Academic Awards Ceremony after each quarter, and this last one, we were able to actually give the students, the honor roll students, a certificate, a Smartie, and then we also raffled off movie theater gift certificates. So they really enjoyed that, kind of put a little fun in the ceremony. For the GMS state testing, we were providing a breakfast item to all students at Geneva Middle School prior to their testing. So a quote from Principal Alex Anderson: research and past practice shows that having something to eat prior to testing can increase achievement levels and keep students focused throughout exams. And so we wanted to be a part of that. And also at the GHS end of year awards, we present the top 10 seniors awards and also present the top 10 scholarships. And last but not least is our spelling bee, which will be April 4th, adult spelling bee, Saturday, April 4th. And the lucky team will be able to bring home Stinger, our trophy. Please go on our website, Geneva ABC, and see where Stinger has been. Stinger's been really busy lately, so we hope you'll come. And just give a little synopsis here. Our own Richard Dana is going to be our MC. Kevin Lillie will be our fantastic pronouncer. Judges are going to be Judge Marianne Cezanne, State Representative John Patterson, and GHS English teacher Margaret Shemansky. Confirmed teams are including our wonderful board. We have the principals team, Titans of Tutelage, which are teacher team, student teams, and our Ashtabula County Commissioners will be there, Geneva Rotary, Athletic Boosters, the library, Geneva Public Library, and hopefully there's some more in the works. And yeah, it should be a fun night. And also that night, we're hoping to recognize our district spelling bee participants and alternates. They had their spelling bee, was it in January? Yeah, it was in January, and then Maya, later this month, she'll be participating in the county. So we want to make sure they all are recognized that night as well. So if you want more information, go to our website, Geneva ABC, and we're also on Facebook and Twitter. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did we have a representative here from Athletic Boosters? I know Tiffany Warner had thought that she would be able to attend tonight, but
I know they had a meeting with Spire Sessions today too. So.
But I know Lisa Demshire is here from Gamba. So welcome. Good.
Hi, I'm Lisa Demshire. I'm the president of Gamba. And for those of you who don't know what that stands for, it's Geneva Area Music Boosters Association. Hopefully we all know what that means. So we're nonprofit, of course, and we, just to tell you what our mission statement is here, we work to enhance the music curriculum of the high school and the middle school to further their music programs and financially support the departments beyond the normal expectations of what the board and what the families can do. So, through fundraising and donations and that kind of thing, that's how we provide equipment, purchasing and repair, uniforms, choir robes, purchasing and repair. And of course, there's a lot of other things. If anybody is involved in any of that or any other kind of nonprofit, there's a whole lot that goes on you don't even realize. So anyway, we meet the first Wednesday of the month at 7 o'clock in the band room here at the high school. We'd love to have you. It seems like we never have enough people that are coming up so that we can train them, because the students that are going out, we need parents of all grades, the kids that are in all grades, so that we can kind of keep a nice steady flow going. So we're looking for people to get involved. If you have a kid in band, please come and join us, or choir, too. We have a Facebook page, and I have some highlights here for the band. I'm sorry, I should have brought my glasses. I can't really see what I'm looking at. Okay, so the band does a lot. Of course, if you've seen them out in the community, we participate in the Gold Fest parade in Geneva here, in the city Christmas parade, and all the varsity basketball games. The pep band's here. Jazz band performed at Rayen Nursing Home. And if you've ever had a loved one in a nursing home, you know how appreciative those folks are. It's just really cool. At Christmas time, they do that. And then they also performed for the Asheville Cattlemen's Association. That was really cool. Jazz band. And future performances for the jazz band included the Geneva Rotary, an appearance at Pymatuning Valley Jazz Festival, and Marching Geneva will also perform at Geneva on the Lake Kickoff Parade. So we have 8th grade band and GHS band to perform at Lake Erie Monsters game. We had a Monsters game scheduled, and due to weather, we had to cancel that. So it's rescheduled for April 2nd. So if you're not familiar with that, they just go on the ice and they perform, and it's pretty cool. So the GHS, we had OMEA solo and ensemble performances at Warren Harding High School on February 8th, and the students earned superior and excellent ratings in both solos and ensemble. And there's a handful of band students performing in that. Then we have District 5 Honors Band. So in November of last year, the Geneva Middle and Geneva High School attended the OMEA District 5 Honors Band in Youngstown. And there were a couple kids from the middle school there, and several, just a handful from the high school, and they did well there. So CVC Honors Band, there's all these different band, competitions and stuff. You're not familiar with all the names. It's kind of hard to keep them all in check. But the GHS band members will be participating at the CVC Honors Band, which is being held at Cardinal High School on April 1st. And then we have Geneva Middle Band and Solo Ensemble. We're working on that now, and that's going to be at Grand Valley on Saturday, April 18th. And then Mr. Trident's taken the middle school to Waldemere. And May 5th, Gamba's sponsoring a spaghetti dinner at Grand River Cellars to kick off a uniform fundraising campaign. So, and then I have some information here from someone in the choir. I'm a band mom, so I have to get the choir information from someone else. They are in Disney right now, so they're having a great time. As a matter of fact, if you check out our website or our Facebook page, there's a zillion videos and pictures of these kids. They're just having a good time. And they performed at Disney, and they've had lots of compliments for the students. So we're representing Geneva proudly. She said, security at Disney Transportation Hub stopped by to give thanks for such a well-behaved, organized group. So there's 67 of them there, and so they complimented them on their behavior, so that's good. So as far as the choir, there's a lot going on. They had 13 performances, 13 in 1 week of GI performances during the holiday from the north side of the county to the south county. Multiple band and choir students participated in OMEA, so that was choir also. And I don't have much more with that other than the GI showcase and Broadway dinner show is coming up for the choir. So lots going on. Would love to see some new faces at our meeting. So catch us on our Facebook page if you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're looking at the photos.
You're going to share for athletic boosters? Thanks.
I'm Jennifer Crossley, the athletic director. The boosters weren't able to come tonight, so I'll talk a little bit about what we do. We have a couple fundraisers every year. We have a fundraiser coming up, the reverse bag, designer bag bingo on March 16th. We use all the funds that we raise at our various fundraisers, concession stands, those kinds of things for uniforms for all the athletic teams, grades 7 through 12. Any large projects, one of their big projects is to build dugouts for the 2 JV fields this year. Entrances to the gyms, they help fund those with some outside organizations also. We buy all the awards for all 3 seasons, patches, trophies, plaques, those kinds of things. We also give anywhere from 2 to 4 scholarships every single spring to senior athletes going on to college. And that's about it.
Do you want to give a plug to the garage sale that's occurring?
Garage sale just finished, but yes, we are selling old uniforms. We try to do that at least once a year to recoup some money back to help put back towards the uniforms that we purchase throughout the year.
Thank you. And again, thank you to all of those organizations. I know you provide a lot of time and effort to the school and students, and we appreciate that. Thank you. At this time, I have my Geneva Pride positives. Again, I always enjoy sharing those. I'll try to go through them as quickly as I can. At Ostenburg Elementary, the students uncovered the universe last week with the help of COSI. There were over 25 parent volunteers helping at stations as students traveled around the gym. Discover the Universe is a COSI program that guides students from Earth through our solar system and beyond. Students explored the Earth's atmosphere, air pressure, and gravity in comparison to other planets, launched a rocket into space, and saw how stars are formed. The assembly ended with students learning about supernovas and how we're all made of stars. Ostenburg is celebrating Kindness Week by encouraging acts of kindness and participating in activities. Teachers started by decorating their doors to promote kindness, and students received heart-shaped Post-its to add to their door daily as they received toodles. Staff and students promoted kindness each day with the following. Tuesday, go wild with kindness. Staff and students wore camouflage or animal prints. Wednesday, I mustache you to be kind. Students and staff received stick-on mustaches. Thursday, let your kindness shine. Staff and students will wear tie-dye or neon. And Friday, let's snuggle up to kindness. Staff and students will wear their PJs and watch a movie with popcorn. Also, parent-teacher conferences were well attended at Ostenburg. Parents prepared dinners for both nights for staff. Thank you to AESA for organizing this for the building. At Cork Elementary, in our quest to meet all aspects of student needs, students in grades 1 to 5 were visited by Ashtabula County Health Department to review what students need for healthy teeth. Also at Cork, field trips sponsored by the Cork PTO is supporting opportunities for our students to learn outside the regular classroom. Kindergarten will be traveling to the Lake Farm Parks. The theme of the day is Little Lambs and Little Sprouts. Students will interact with baby animals and take a plant home. Both AM and PM classes will attend. PTO is also sending our 3rd grade classes to the Natural History Museum. This opportunity was part and due to Mrs. Bordeaux's receiving a grant for student admission and Cork PTO funding the cost of busing along with any other incidentals. Also, Mrs. Bordeaux's 3rd grade class will begin to do some research on Dr. Seuss in celebration of his birthday, which is March 2nd. Students typically find it entertaining to learn about their favorite early childhood author. Students will complete some beginning stages of research that will later be used when they create their Google slideshow that they present to younger grade classes. At Geneva Platter Spencer, Mrs. Kirk's 3rd grade class has been participating in a marathon challenge through Marathon Kids this school year in conjunction with her participation in the New York Marathon this past November. The goal for the year is for students to complete 4 marathons. She is pleased to report that all her students earned their Marathon Kids t-shirt by running or walking in a marathon through daily exercise. A few of her students have earned their Marathon Kids shoelaces by completing their second marathon. The students are excited each day to complete their walking or running and enjoy their exercise time together. The GPS fourth grade classes spent a day at the James A. Garfield Museum on either February 12th or 13th. This is an annual field trip organized by GPS fourth grade teacher Justin Kopsak and is a grant funded through the national parks. Students spent time learning about the life of our past president and were able to see how the land near the Menor/Great Lakes Mall has changed significantly through the years. GPS second grade teacher Mrs. Bryan is happy to report that her students have a 98% passage rate on the iReady math lessons. At Geneva Middle School was privileged to again participate in the Patriots Pen Contest through the Geneva VFW. Geneva Middle School submitted over 70 entries for the contest entitled What Makes America Great. Ms. Osborne and Ms. Kaufman graciously helped organize the contest at the building level, working with Natalie Goodland from the VFW. Congratulations to these students for placing in the contest. First place, Ella Park, Mrs. Kaufman's 6th grade class. Second place, Grace Dubsky, Mrs. Kaufman's 8th grade class. And third place, Mason Laddick, Mrs. Osborne's 7th grade class. And Geneva Middle School is proud to present the second edition of the Talon newspaper this school year. We hope you enjoy reading the information completed by our students. A copy of the Talon was provided to you this evening. For Geneva High School, and this was mentioned earlier, Geneva choirs are currently entertaining many people in Florida during scheduled and non-scheduled visits. The choir began their trip to Disney on Saturday, February 15th, and performed at Disney on President's Day. Everyone is doing well, and everywhere they go, they are leaving a positive impression on others. People comment on how wonderfully they perform and behave, representing GHS well. Their performance in Disney is posted live on Facebook. If you would like to see some fantastic pictures, videos, and comments about our students and groups, check out the Gamba Facebook page. We wish the students, Ms. Mather, and our adult chaperones continued success and safe travels as they return home to Geneva. Over 60 students have been working on the spring musical Beauty and the Beast, which runs on March 13th at 7 p.m., March 14th at 7 p.m., and March 15th at 2 p.m. Not only have students been dancing, singing, and acting, but technical crews have been working with challenging costumes, set design, and lighting. Students have also spent time discussing how when we are able to realize our strengths, imperfect and broken individuals can come together to create something beautiful. And finally, at Geneva High School, 4 Club and FCA make meals on Thursdays to deliver to needy families in Geneva. Students prepare the meals, a pasta dish, salad, bread, and dessert. 4 Club also prepares weekend meal bags for students who need to have food on the weekends. The meal bags include 2 lunches, dinners, breakfast, and snacks. Students are able to pick up the bags on Friday so that they have something to eat over the weekend. So congratulations to all our schools for continuing to show the pride that we represent here in Geneva.
So I'd like to make a comment here. I love this. I absolutely love this. So the newspaper that we have here at the middle school here, and when you read through it, talking about programs that are coming back, like choir is back, you know, the excitement here from that. And it's amazing when we hear the legislative report that cuts that we faced back in 08, 09, where we had to make deep cuts, and through the generosity of our local taxpayers, not from the state, but from our local taxpayers, are bringing these programs back, you know, including you know, VOED, you know, training here at the middle school. And I mean, just to read this and see how our students appreciate that and how their education is being, you know, improved. This is not something that you would have in an electronic classroom. So kudos to everyone here for that, including our community. I'm just going to mention one negative thing though here, and that is Wednesday was supposed to be mustache day here for staff, and we didn't get to participate in that. And you know, I'm shocked at that, but maybe next year we'll see.
And I just have one thing. I've been following the choir on their trip down south and back, and several years ago, my nephews who had missed their class trip to Washington were complaining about it. So my sister-in-law and I took these kids down to Washington. And we luckily hit springtime in Washington with every school kid west of the Mississippi. The eastern ones came the week before. And we were sitting at one building waiting for all these school buses and kids to clear out so we could go to whatever we were doing next. And all of a sudden, a group of kids started singing. And all of a sudden, the whole crowd settled. The kids who were running around and jumping and acting like lunatics settled. They were singing along. They were having the most wonderful time. And they were also well-behaved. And then a bus pulled up, and the choir got up and got on the bus, and it was Mentor, Ohio. And I was just so proud to be from Ohio on that particular day and place. So the choir, I've noticed they do sing when they stop for food, and they're standing in the McDonald's and they're singing and serenading everybody in the place. And it's really a cool thing to do. So thank you.
They definitely have spread the joy of music, not only here within the United States, but internationally. So we're very proud of all of our groups. Next, each year, I do provide a district testing dates for you for the spring. One of the requirements that we have through the state is to conduct various testing. So I provided the testing windows that we have within the district, and then you can see how many tests occur here in the district, both at our elementary level, 3rd through 5th grade, at our middle school level, 6, 7, and 8, and then also at the high school level. So I just wanted to share that information with you. You can see that a lot of time is spent, especially in the months of April and May, on testing. All of this is online testing, so when we had looked at purchasing new Chromebooks for some of our end-of-the-life devices that we had, we make sure that we have enough devices that we can conduct testing, and all of this can happen within the technological wonders of what we have within the district. So just so you're aware of how the students will be spending a lot of April and May, and if you have any questions on that, again, feel free to ask.
Okay, a motion for number 4.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Metzler,
Yes.
Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mr. Arndt.
Yes.
Mr. Dana.
Yes.
And Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
Number 5.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Ortiz.
Yes.
Mr. Arndt.
Yes.
Mr. Dana.
Yes.
Ms. Fisher.
Yes.
And Mrs. Metzler.
Yes.
Other?
Mrs. Metzler, did you want to begin other this
Sure.
evening?
Sure. I wanted to give a brief update, if you will. I went to Cork Elementary last month for a visit, and in case you don't know, while I was out talking to the community members, while I was running for the school board, one of the items that came up actually at my very first visit, which was to Cork for their open house, was coming into the classroom and observing the classrooms in the district. It was a suggestion by Mrs. Bordeaux at Cork, and I thought, you know, that's a really good idea. I think I'd like to do that in all of the schools. So I kind of took that and I pledged that as I was running, and now that I'm on the board, it's something I intend to fulfill. And every month I intend to go to a different school and just kind of get a feel for how that school day runs. Not necessarily all of the special events that are going on, but the day-to-day runnings. So on January 28th, I went to Cork bright and early at 8:20, although I'm up much earlier than that, but bright and early for their kids. And Mrs. Doherty stands outside and greets all of her kids when they come into the school. And I thought that was really fantastic. The kids get off the buses, the parents drop their kids off, they're excited, they come up to her. So many of them came up and hugged her. They were happy to see her, they were happy to be at school, they were happy to be with their friends. I thought that was a really good way to start off their school day. And then I moved into Mrs. Bordeaux's 3rd grade class. I was there from about 8:40 until 10:30 to kind of observe. She starts her day with that particular day, she started her day with individual work for about the first half an hour to 60 minutes on Chromebooks. And in this particular grade, they use Chromebooks from a cart, and that cart they share with other classrooms. So it was quite impressive watching these kids maneuver themselves onto these Chromebooks. I know they have a lot of practice. They've been in school half a year, but I mean, these youngsters know exactly what to do. They can get themselves settled, they can sit down, and they can start their work. And that's kind of like their individual work for that period of time. And one of the things that Mrs. Bordeaux had mentioned to me when I talked to her in August, and again before I went there, was kind of observing the early morning to see what kind of impact any type of tardiness has on the classroom. And fortunately that day there were no tardy students. So there really was no disruption to their focus or anything like that. But that does sometimes pose a challenge for the teachers, as some kids may come in late and you've already got kids focused on what they're doing, in this particular case on the Chromebooks. But it was very impressive, and after they were done with their Chromebooks, because they share it, so they have to schedule that time in, which can be challenging, but I know we're trying to move to every classroom getting a Chromebook for every student and not necessarily having to share, so that will be welcomed, you know, when we get to that point. But they have to schedule their whole day around when they can use those Chromebooks and when they can teach those lessons. But after that, she went to the group learning, was working with the overhead projector, and it was quite different how the kids acted when they were doing their own individual work as opposed to when they were all supposed to be focused with the teacher. So it was kind of good just to see that transition in the classroom. And the kids didn't know I was coming, and when I walked in, she kind of said, we're going to have a visitor today, and they all kind of gave me the eye, like, what is she doing there? Who is this woman? But they didn't pay much attention to me for very long, but it was kind of cool, you know. They had this visitor watching what they were doing. They were very well behaved. She had a really good morning with them. After I left her classroom, I went to Mrs. Schrader's 1st grade class for about an hour and a half, from 10:30 to noon. And when I walked in, the kids were working on journals where they had a prompt, and then they had to finish the question or whatever their prompt was. And then once they got done with that, they had to read it aloud. So they were all kind of working quietly, listening to their readers read aloud from their journal. And when they finished their read aloud, they were able to get a puzzle to do at their desk quietly while the other kids were still working. The kids that got done with their puzzles were then the checkers. So there was something going on in all different, like 2 or 3 things going on at once, and those kids were very quiet. For 1st graders, they were very focused on what they were doing, very involved in what they were doing. I enjoyed it a lot. And kids took a bathroom break, and there was one kid that didn't need to go, so Mrs. Schrader asked him to come and read to me. So he was a little hesitant to come and read to the stranger, but boy, did he do a good job as a 4th grader, or as a 1st grader. I was very impressed. But when his friends came back, he didn't want anything to do with me anymore. No more reading. He wanted to get back to his friends. I followed them to lunch, and while they were at lunch, I was able to meet Buzz, their maintenance man. Had a nice long discussion with him. Talked about how he kind of is a jack of all trades, wears many hats there. He was in the cafeteria kind of helping the kids. If they need help opening up their packages or making sure their garbage gets thrown away. So I met him. I kind of observed lunch and recess. In this particular case, the 1st grade teachers took their classes into the gym, had them walking around just to get out some of that energy. And I think the kids really, they needed it. I think they enjoyed it. Gets that energy out before they go back into the classroom for the rest of the day. And then finally, I followed Mrs. Schrader's class into the computer lab. They were very excited to go into the computer lab, the stationary lab where they would take AR tests, and then they would call out their scores to Mrs. Schrader. So it was a very good visit. I thank Mrs. Doherty and all of the teachers and staff for welcoming me into their school. Anytime I want to come back, they've told me I can come back. And actually, Mrs. Bordeaux actually said, you know, it'd be nice if you came back toward the end of the school year to see how much progress we've made from the time that you're here now in January. So I intend to try and do that as well. I did reconvene with Mrs. Doherty after I visited the classrooms. We talked about the all-day, everyday kindergarten coming back next year, coming to the school next year, and the space that was needed and what the plans, you know, might be for that, and then also the Head Start class that she hosts in that school. So it was a great visit. Thank you so much, Mrs. Doherty, for letting me come. Next month, actually not next month, next week, Tuesday, I'll be at the middle school, Mr. Anderson's got that all planned out for me. I'll be there in the morning, kind of observing some more classes, and I intend to report back every month on the schools that I attend and let you know how it's going, but first one was great.
Can I make a suggestion? This is great. I want to make a suggestion, Eric, and that is when we hear about, we've been dealing with this for so many years here, where the ECOT is now Ed Choice. And I think there is a disconnect between members of the general public about what it is that we do in our public schools. And I think you have a tendency here where you'll read in the newspaper, you'll see online about, what the quote unquote bad kids are doing here. And we have fabulous employees and we have fabulous kids here that go to the school, and we are changing persons' lives. And there's much more that teachers are having to deal with in today's world, in today's environment, than what they had to do 20 or 30 years ago. And it's a tough job. It's a tough job, and every class that you have, the different students that are in there, it's a different dynamic that occurs with that. And we get to see this because we're there, and we get to see, the kids kind of grow up K through 12, and we see our students graduate. They go to the top universities here in the country, and they do well. But those stories aren't getting out. Those stories aren't getting out, and it's one of those things where I've seen here where persons will say, hey, you need to have choice because our public schools are failing, and that's false. It's false, and all you have to do is spend some time and see what's occurring in our classrooms here, the connections that are being made, like when we talk about Mrs. Doherty here, where persons are excited, children are excited about going to school, meeting up with their friends, meeting their teachers, meeting the staff, and engaged in real learning. And to see the success stories that we have from our public schools, because unfortunately, when money gets involved in things, of course money never talks down in Columbus or in Washington, D.C. Of course, that never happens. But if we can actually see what's happening, and so this is I think we sometimes just forget that here about being able to go into the classroom and seeing with fresh eyes what occurs each and every day. And that's something that we should invite every parent to have an opportunity from which to see. I'm just throwing that out there. Because how are we going to change what's occurring and what's been occurring? We've been complaining about the same things for decades, right? School funding has been unconstitutional for 22 plus years. And it's just, I think we have a duty, maybe, perhaps, to educate the public about what it is we actually do here and how we change lives.
Thank you, Mrs. Metzler, for sharing, and I'm sure you look forward to your next visit.
Definitely.
Last month, at the end of our meeting, we did have Jason Wysong here from Tremco, and he had shared some information about the high school curtain walls. And at that time, he didn't have pricing for all of the options. He did send, and this is hot off the press, actually, it came this afternoon. He sent 5 different options. One of them is a new option, which was option number 4. And they give a description for each of the options, so you have an idea of what that would entail. But you can see from some of his thoughts at that meeting when they had not looked very closely at the numbers and where fixes would have to occur on the curtain wall. We now range anywhere from $72,229, and that was the wet seal option, to $408,798 as the complete removal and reinstallment of the system. So wanted you to see these. Again, it came late this afternoon. He did say that he would be willing to either answer if there are questions or willing to come to the meeting in March if we have some additional questions. So if you want to reach out to me, and I will make sure that I talk with Mr. Kearns and with Jason Wysong at Tremco if there's some additional questions. And then we'll have, obviously a decision will have to be made as to what the recommendation would be.
says in here, only good for 60 days.
Yes. So I'll allow you to look that over, and again, if there's other questions, please let me know. I did also want to point out a couple things. On my Friday email, I mentioned the CVC Mental Health Summit. Last year, this was something that the CVC Athletic League and the conference offered on a Saturday. They did not get a good turnout and ended up canceling that event. But this year they're trying it again on Thursday, March 5th. So I did send that information out. If you're interested, again, there was a link that you can sign on or sign up for the summit, or if you want to let me know, I can make sure that I get you signed up. So if you would be available, I know it's a little harder during a day for some of you, but did want to present that to you. Also, next week, a week from tomorrow, here at the auditorium, we do have the State of the Schools evening planned. This program will consist of a strategic plan overview and progress updates. That'll include all 6 areas, and then a question and answer session. We hope that we will get a good turnout for that. This is our first attempt and part of the strategic plan for the communications area to make sure that we had an evening where we would be open to the public and share information about our strategic plan and also give them an update. So we look forward to that coming up, and I will have a few of the administrators are going to be involved because they were involved in some of the groups. And again, hopefully we get a good turnout for that evening. And the last thing that I had for you is I also provided you the strategic plan update checklist for the current status. Now that aligns with the strategic plan. I know most of you had a copy, but if you do not have a copy, I do have those. I have a few extra copies here. But the checklist and current status, anything that is in progress right now is marked. Some of the items may have just been, there might be some discussion going on. Maybe we've looked at some options, but it goes through all the 6 areas just to kind of give you a progress update. So again, that aligns with the goals and the tasks for each of those areas. So I did want to provide that. And then the last part of that, which was a separate document, we end with technology, and you can see some of the progress updates that we've made. And we had the 3-year plan for our technology, and you can see that the items that we completed in year 1 as we move forward with our Chromebook purchases, replacing some of the monitors that we've had in the school, replacing some of the projectors and other items. So some of these items have been purchased, some will be completed for installation, but I wanted to give you that update for the 3-year technology plan. Any questions that I can answer? I know there's a lot of information there, but feel free to contact me either at the office or on my cell phone, and I would be glad to answer any questions. The last item that I wanted to mention is, I know last month I passed out some information about the potential administrative board office. If there are items that you would like me to pursue, please let me know. There were some options there. I have not hired an architect yet, but we would like to get some more formal pricing of some of those options. But if there is something that you would like to direct me as a board to pursue a little bit and spend my time towards, please let me know, and we can discuss that further at our next meeting also. That concludes my other.
Any other comments? At this time, do we have anyone from the public that has anything they'd like to add?
You have to. This is an experiment.
So I'm just super excited that we have this second opportunity. It's actually, I was tardy, so I didn't get to hear the announcement. This is a trial basis. You're gonna just see how it
Who
goes.
is this gentleman?
Who is this person?
Who is this person?
Where does he
and
live?
Where they live?
I don't know.
The rules here. John Metzler, 2461 Barnum Road.
Thank you. Oh, thank you.
So anyhow, I was prepared to use the first session to ask about if we could have a second session, but you've already done that, and so then I was going to ask about the I don't know, about the Tremco. I thought that was a really good presentation last board meeting, and I had a bunch of follow-up questions, and that kind of led into the, hey, if we had another session, I could do some follow-up questions. But you probably, because you didn't have all the options available to you, you probably have all the information now. But I was just wondering, as I was listening to their presentation, there was a couple things like, it seemed to me, just from a common sense standpoint, they had this channel system, right? And one of the options they were presenting is we can seal it up, and they were talking about the special adhesive and the way they would seal it up. And I was wondering to myself, well, if they would seal it up, now you're going from a water like channeling and you're diverting it to a specific spot. If they would seal it up, that water would be shed, and how would it then be collected, or where would it be diverted to? And maybe that's all in your documents that you guys have, but to me, if you're going onto a flat roof, and that's what I thought that structure was, it's not sloped, and it's not, you know, I've been around construction for a long time, and usually it's shed the water, don't collect it. But this collection system, that kind of leads me to a second point, that did they say that they've had success with this channeling system somewhere else? And if that's true, do we have the contact information we can ask that school board or that owner of that building or something like, do you guys have water intrusion too? Or, you know, is this a successful system? Should we, because that price was a lot higher, right? So I was thinking, if we're going to spend all that money, do we even know that this can be successful? I don't know. I'm sure that you guys are considering that, but I kind of wanted to make that point. And I guess one other totally separate item was I had written down to ask about the administration, not the school board, structures. So I'm excited to see where that's going to go, because I got to tour the other structure, and yeah, I can see that. Yeah, I can see the need for it. But I understand probably, you know, priority is this water intrusion. Obviously, would be something I'd be interested to see where it's going first. Thank you.
Anyone else? We will continue to work with Tremco and get some of these questions answered. I'll reach out to them because I think that's a legitimate question. Some of the other schools that they've worked with that may have a similar window wall system, you know, what success have they had after repairs? I know the wet seal, changing the total format of that being that it would just keep water out and not really channel it. There are some drains on that roof, even though it's a flat roof, there are some drains there to take some of that water off. But I don't know if that would change the capacity for those drains and cause any other damage. But right now that upper roof is our biggest issue because it's causing some other damage to that roof. Some of the other window wall issues that we have that are in the entrance or near the administrative areas, they're smaller, but need our attention also. So, thank you.
Anything other than a complete fix is like putting Bondo or Rust-Oleum on rust. The rust is already there, it's not going away. You either have to fix it correctly or don't spend the dollars.
Yep.
So you are exactly right. It's been fixed 3 times, remember what he said in here. 3 times we've had people, and it's still not fixed.
Anyone else? Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Roll call?
Mr. Arndt?
Yes.
Mr. Dana?
Yes.
Ms. Fisher?
Yes.
Mrs. Metzler?
Yes.
And Mrs. Ortiz?
Yes. Thank you for coming. Have a safe evening.